adjusting the length of FPC and or modifying the melt on the end. So first you need to know what you want your length to be. And there's a few ways to figure that out. I'm not going to go over how to choose the right length for your poi, and everything I'm going to talk about applies whether you have capsule handles or vision poi, pod poi, whatever it is. We're just focusing on the leash here. So you could use a ruler and measure things, but those are just arbitrary numbers anyway. I like to kind of go with my body and what feels right. And so I'm going to put some tape on here that goes from where my knob currently is past where I'll want it to be. I know I don't want to make it any shorter than this, so this is enough tape. And then I personally like my poi to come right to my shoulder. These already do that, so I'm just going to pretend I want to make them even shorter than that. And feel out kind of where would I want to be gripping that knob, and feel where that is. And let's say it was right here. I know my knob's going to be sitting right there on my finger, so I'm going to put a mark on the tape there. So the one end of the tape is at this part of the knob. I want to mark where that part of the knob should end up. And now I know how much shorter I want my leash to be. I don't actually want to cut the leash here though, because some of the leash is inside the knob, which is why I like to use this kind of physical world reference. So now I can take that off, and I have my length I want it to be, just to be extra clear here. Just gonna kind of like that. That's how much material I want to remove. You could also be doing this if you had, for some reason you wanted to do it at the head end of the poi. You could also do it there. I find it easier to do where I'm going to put my hand. So now I know I want to be removing this much from the total length of my, my leash. So I'm actually going to put that up a little higher. In fact, yeah, we're going to remove that much, but we need some room to recreate that melt. We need about 1/4 of an inch. So we're going to cut that. We're going to end up melting down 1/4 of an inch. So I put it 1/4 of an inch higher because I know I'm going to melt that much leash off. So I've moved that up there. I have my reference point, and I'm going to mark that on the leash. So that's where I want my melt to come up to. I'm going to take another piece of tape, and it doesn't have to be masking tape. Electrical tape works great, masking tape, duct tape if that's all you have, although it's very sticky and will kind of affect the leash. Oh, and so now that's where I want it to end up, but I need about 1/4 of an inch of material to melt down, right? So I'm putting this here, right at where I want it to end up, and I'm going to be melting up to that tape. So wrap the tape around here, and you want to wrap it nice and snug. Get it as snug as you can, because that's going to really keep the fibers together right there, right? And now, I might as well use this piece of tape. I'm going to be doing a cut right here, and I want to cut through tape, because, actually I could just put that, no, I'll put it right at the edge there, because it'll be a little bit cleaner. It'll sit flatter that way, since this tape isn't flexible. I want it to sit flat. If you try to cut through the rope without tape over it, it's going to spread out and just mess up the rope and make it difficult to melt. So we do that, and I know I wanted to go about 1/4 of an inch up. That's where I want to make my cut, and then all this material is going to get melted down. Now it helps to have a sharp knife or a razor, but I know a lot of people don't have sharp knives or razors laying around, so I grabbed a relatively dull kitchen knife to kind of show you the worst case scenario, so you get a feeling for what it's going to be like. And I'm going to start cutting right on that mark, and it helps to have a big knife, especially if it's dull, so you can have a nice kind of a long stroke on the sawing action there. I'm pushing quite firmly, but mostly I'm using a sawing action to cut through. Definitely need to sharpen this kitchen knife. But you still get a pretty darn nice cut with the tape and all that sawing action. You can get a really clean cut even with a dull knife. So now we're going to remove this piece of tape, and I want to show you right now the difference between kind of a small melt, and this melt would go inside of a capsule shell right up where the knot goes. And with the FPC, especially in an Umoja, in fact, let me show you this end because this is kind of an important point. If you are modifying the end of the leash that goes into the capsule, or if you have one that has a small melt like this on it, and it's been pulling out, because this small of a melt, it fits up here in the knot section, which is really nice, but it can actually, the capsule can get levered apart, especially on hard wraps, and this can actually pop out. So we've started using this larger melt, which goes down at the battery and actually sits right down in there against the battery. And that is much more secure. And so you want to do a nice big melt like that. If you have a melt like this and need to cut it off and do that, you would do basically the same process, but you just put the tape right here and just cut that melt off. And then you can get that in there like that. So I'm going to put that end back together, and then we can do the other end. So that's where this is going to come in. I'm going to kind of spread this out and fluff it up a bit. That's going to make it melt easier and faster. And I've got a good amount of material here, and you could use a jet flame lighter, but you don't want to burn the plastic. So if you're using a jet lighter, you want to be really careful not to actually hit it directly with the flame, but you kind of hold the flame next to it. You want to rotate it, and it takes a little while. There's a lot of plastic to melt, and we want to be gentle. I'm kind of touching it with the flame, but I'm watching for it to start bubbling or charring or smoking. If you see smoke coming off, or if you see it start to bubble, then it's getting too hot. Another thing to be aware of is because it takes a little while, your lighter is going to get very hot. So if it catches fire, which I'll just kind of try and do on purpose here for a second. Sometimes, especially if there's little thin parts sticking out, it'll catch fire. Come on, that's where it happens, yeah. Try not to blow out your lighter when you're blowing out the fire. Definitely blow out the fire. But if you blow out the lighter and you have to relight it, you might burn yourself because the lighter's freaking hot. So be careful. I've definitely done that before. It's not bad. I didn't have blisters or anything. But another thing to watch out for is what I just did, which is letting the cord slip out of my hand while the end of it is basically molten plastic. And obviously you should be doing this in a well-ventilated area. And yep, it really takes this long. So you want to get that into a nice solid puck of melted plastic. See, if you light it really fast, it doesn't burn you. And once it's good and ready, nope, overdid it there. It should look like one big glossy mass. And you want to make sure none of it's cooling down too much while you do this. So you want to really keep rotating it. Don't just focus on one area at a time. You want to get the whole thing nice and hot. Then you're going to grab a knife or piece of metal and squish it nice and flat. Hold on there for a moment. Gives you a nice big wide puck. And that's perfect to go inside of a capsule. It's possible you might even make this too big around to where it doesn't, the capsule shell won't close on it. It's pretty hard to get it that big, but you can. If that happens, just go ahead and kind of hit the edge. Like I see there's kind of a bump sticking out right here. If this was so big that that was going to hit the capsule, you can kind of just use a lighter to knock down any high points so that it does fit in. In this case, it's going into a knob, so that's a lot less critical. Then you can remove your piece of tape. and you're good to go.